Because
But if they know that another buyer is only willing to pay X, then that's the most that they're going to want to pay. And I think that
so how do
we're
you buy
over
anything?
your situation. I agree 100%. There will be scenarios that an investor can come in and look at, but for the most part, this isn't going to be the straw that broke the camel's back. This is just one more tool, one step in the right direction, adding a little bit more housing. We need 1,000 different solutions
Yeah.
to be able to continue to support. Which back, just quickly, Patrick, on your point, I was talking to somebody the other day as a client. I said, "Why did you come to Canada?" And their answer was because the US said no. And they just made the application and Canada said yes right away.
Go
Like that
get in
was it.
line at that wall in Mexico. Did you see what's going on there?
Yeah.
Holy Jesus.
Yeah. That's been
Crazy.
going on for what, a couple of years at least, more.
Crazy. So hold on. So we're the backup plan, but that's okay. We've already got like a lineup. Like we could bring in 1 million people and there's 1 million more waiting to get into this place for some reason.
That is actually not quite true. I don't know if you've read the most recent data, but
you mean I didn't say a pure 100% fact?
Demand is down 37%. Now it's still a big lineup. What? The point is that what's starting to happen is of course YouTube and all the rest of it. When you look especially into these other countries, big populations, South Asia as an example, what you're seeing is some Canadians, immigrants that have been here, let's say 3 or 4 years, they're putting out YouTube videos that are getting 1 and 2 million views, saying, "Okay, here's my experience coming to Canada," and they're not painting a real positive picture. If you're going to come, be prepared for the cold, be prepared for the cost of living, be prepared for the fact that you're probably not going to get the job you think you're going to get. And anecdotally, just so happens I had a appliance guy in my house yesterday who was fixing my dryer. Okay, so I'm coming in. He's obviously immigrant. I talked to him, and how long you been in Canada? 6 years. What have you learned since being in Canada? I'm just being really curious. Good guy. And I said, "Where are you from?" "Africa." I go, "So what have you discovered about Canada?" He goes, "It's freaking cold in Canada." And he lives in British Columbia. So I said, "Well, there's there's colder cities." He goes, "I know, been there." But I said, "What else about it?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "It's really expensive and you don't get the job that you think you're going to get." That was literally what he said to me yesterday. And he went to appliance school, learned how to be a technician. He said it sucked for the first 4 or 5 years. He's recently become a subcontractor so that he can do billing separately and differently. And that he's winning that battle. But now has 2 kids here, and away we go.
It's not the Canadian dream that it once was. Like, when people came here 50, 60 years ago.
Not the Canada once was.
Right. But I'm not sure because I've never lived in one of those countries. So I don't know. I'm just assuming that in many situations, it's at least better here. And that's why people do want to come. But
they're still here.
I'm also more than open-minded enough to understand that for the vast majority of the world, it's a better life for them in the country they were born in than
For
moving here.
Safer.
Right?
That's exactly right, TK.
Yeah.
I think, just from a philosophical point of view, my wife and I do a podcast called Mindset Matters with the Everyday Millionaire. But in that podcast, we just recently dropped a segment talking about a new era. And we are entering a new era, I believe. Some will say, well, we're going from the third turning to the fourth turning and all of the rest of it. And there's certainly lots of truth in behind all that. But what we are seeing happening is that we're going into a new era. And that new era is of technology and what's happening in this country and, immigration, all the rest of it. I think we have to be open-minded to not try and pushing back to keeping things the way they were. How do we look forward and embrace the changes that are happening? And again, I'm not trying to look through a lens of, rose-colored glasses. It's going to be painful. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be hard freaking work is the way I'm starting to see it unfold a lot. And it's freaking people out. But I think we have to embrace the fact that we're going through the eye of the needle in change, and in change in this country, and housing is one of the issues that are showing up. So I don't know where I go with that, other than to say I think we got to be really open to this change and entering the new era, and see where we can provide solutions.
That's a great segue. I had a question for you about how has investment changed kind of since the pandemic and just in the last year? What even mindset wise, risk tolerance wise, like financing wise? What's different now?
Well, of course, if you're getting financing, and TK, you'd know this because you're working with, buyers and sellers, but ultimately we know credit is tightening. We know OSFI's coming in and looking at investment real estate differently through a different lens, getting more difficult to get financing, which is not good for the other problem we have, which is we're low on rental supply. Forget about even houses to buy for new home buyers. I mean, immigrants come into this country and they rent for at least 2 years, at least. And they got to get credit rating. They got to make sure their job's good. They culturally, they don't know where they're going to live. This is for sure data supported. What they need a place to rent, and we continue to limit how much supply is coming on, given that the individual investors, and I'm saying investors, not speculators, investors who are truly being rental housing providers, we're making it more difficult, and most of them are mom and pops, we'll call, and that's like 50%, almost 50% of the supply. So you're making the supply, you're actually creating a block to the supply that could be provided in just the financing side of things. Cash flow is really difficult. So if you're not being very savvy, looking for deals, really digging deep for the deals, you're not going to find those cash flowing properties. And so these are also the problems that are being faced. It's not an easy game to play. So, back a couple of years ago, everybody's being a real estate genius. I'm a genius. I'm making money. And, soon the music stops. And the next thing you know, I'm a real estate idiot. And people are getting caught because they didn't have an exit strategy. They were buying on a speculative, basis.
Negative cash flow.
And so they're upside down. That actually presents opportunities for investors who know what they're doing. So that's
in your network right now. Have you seen an increase in anybody building purpose-built rentals? Is this?
Yeah, some of the more savvy, folks, guys that, people that have been at the game for a while, they're actually looking and they're doing small developments, or they're prepping. They're kind of doing some of the stuff that you've been doing, Daryl, where they're bringing deals together, where they're going in, for example, seeing a lot, going, something, I'm going to get this rezoned. I'm going to do all of the heavy lifting so that I can get it to a place where I can pass it off to a developer. So there's some of that kind of stuff going on. We've seen a real slowdown in people who are actually investing. They can't wrap their mind around it. They don't have that, things have gotten so expensive that the cost to get in doesn't make sense. The, joint venture on it, then you got financing troubles. So unless you're really committed to growing that financial future with real estate, and you can't, if you can see it, you're going to do it. If you can't, in their world, it's too hard to work. Most people, so I would say, from what I'm observing, it could be down as much as 50-60% in terms of mom and pop investors that we deal with who are actually doing deals. Lots of people talking about
any type of deals. So whether it be purchasing, rentals, building. So that's a huge.
And as we all know, there's the other issue, which is supply. Where do you find supply? And that's also a challenge. It's not like listings are going off the charts. We're at 20-year lows.